Hey everyone, Tito here. I'm going to show you how to configure and launch Orion. So the first thing we want to do is we want to install Orion, and the link to this launcher is going to be in the description, and it's also in our Discord in the Orion guide. You want to choose the correct version of Orion when installing. So I did the 64-bit because I'm running Windows 10 64. If you're using Mac or Linux, you would want to probably message one of the staff members and we can help you out from there. So once you've downloaded and installed Orion, now we're going to configure and launch it. So what you want to do is go to the folder in which Orion was installed. So I installed mine to the C drive, and you go into your Orion folder and then you launch Orion with the Orion launcher. And now what we're going to do is configure it. So let me delete these first. So the first thing we want to do is make sure our files are pathed correctly. So you want to path the UO files path to the UO Rivals folder or whatever shard you're playing. So my UO Rivals folder is in Program Files. And so you want to find the folder. You want to select the folder. The next thing you want to do is you want to path Orion. This may be set correctly by default, but if not, what you want to do is go to where Orion was installed. So like I said before, mine was installed in the C drive, so I select the folder in the C drive. The next thing you want to do is configure your client. So this button, this configure client version, might be red when you first install it. So it's the same process either way. So you click configure client version, open editor, you're going to get this configuration loaded pop up. So what you want to do is set the client version to 7.0.20.0. Then you click create, then you click OK, and then you X out. And that's all you have to do. The next thing you want to do is you want to create a profile. So the first thing you want to do is click Add Server. You want to rename this to the shard that you're playing. So I'm going to call this UO Rivals. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to add a profile. So you click Add Profile, blank profile. Under name, you would want to put the shard's name. So I put UO Rivals. Let me grab this. So this is the UO Rivals IP address and port. Next, you want to put your desired username and password. So on UO Rivals, it's auto create. So if this is your first time logging in, just put whatever you want your username and password to be. And then all you have to do is click OK. So now that we have this configured, the next thing that we want to do is just check for updates. So you want to go to Update tab, check updates, and then apply the updates if there are any. Once you're done with that, then you're ready to launch. So you just click the launch button. So here we are. We are on the login screen. Our username and password have already been inputted, so we just press enter, and now we can get into the server. Okay, so we have logged into Orion. Now let's make some macros. And making macros are really easy on Orion. It's very similar to UO Assist or UOA if you've ever used it. You're just going to be recording them. So what we do is we go to the Orion toolbar. We are going to make a new lightning macro. So you click new, type lightning, and then you click record. Activate lightning, click your target, then you go back to Orion, you click stop, and now we need to change this wait for target to last target. So we right click on it, hover over convert to actions, and then we do last target. And so now when you see I click play, we are casting lightning on our last target. So now we just need to bind this macro. It's really simple. We go to hotkeys, we click open hotkey dialog. All of the green highlighted keys show where I have existing macros, but we're gonna make a lightning macro. I use F4 as my lightning macro. So what you want to do is click Add. You're gonna select a key. I'm gonna hit F4. The type you want to have as play macro, and then action. You click the scroll down button or the drop down menu, and then you select lightning, and then you click OK. So now your macro is set. So I'm going back in game, I'm pressing F4 on my keyboard, and voila, you have a lightning macro. It's very, very simple. And you just repeat that with all your other macros. Some things that you might change differently for self-casting. I don't make any adjustments to the wait for target. When you self-cast, it'll automatically show self-casting. But if for whatever reason it doesn't work, you can go to convert to actions and then click self. Now, these are just very simple macro setups, so you can do very complicated ones. This is just to give you the basics on how to get started. Okay, so now I'd like to show you how I have Orion configured in-game. And I just want to kind of stop and say that I'm not an Orion expert. I know very little about the program, but I do have it set up to where I feel like I have the most important PvP settings on. I'm sure there's a lot more you can do with this program than I'm doing for it. So these are just the bare basics in my opinion. So let's just start with the toolbar. The only thing that I think is 100% needed is fast rotation. Fast rotation makes it so you don't, whenever your character spins or turns corners, it doesn't seem laggy. So let me turn it off and show you. This is fast rotation off. You can see that's kind of choppy. And then once I turn fast rotation back on, everything is very smooth. So you're able to turn corners better. You just feel like you have more control of your character. The next thing that I would always have turned on is ignore stamina check. And what this does is it basically makes it so you can run through people until you've run out of stamina. Whereas I think typically if you have less than 100 stamina, you can't run through someone. This makes you bypass it, and you can run through people as much as you want if you have stamina. Now, this setting is really not relevant right now on UO Rivals because stamina has been disabled because we're trying to work through a bug. But I would recommend turning this on right now. Just set it and forget it, and you'll never have to worry about it again because it will come back at some point. So this is the toolbar settings that I recommend. Everything else is kind of just for cosmetics. I would recommend turning these on, but I don't think you have to. So next, let's go to the window size. So this is one of the coolest features. I would not be playing UO if I couldn't resize my window. And so what you do is you click this little circle and you just drag. So this is probably what we're used to looking at in like 1990 or 1999, but you can make this window as big as you want. It's very cool. And so the next thing we'll do is go to our options. And so this is the standard UO options, but there's a special Orion tab now on the left-hand side over here. And one of the first things you want to do is increase the frame rate. So I don't know if you know this, but UO is, I believe it's typically at 15 FPS when you install and you're playing on a base client, which is terrible for today's standards. So you can bump this up to, let's see how high it goes, 144 if you want. My monitor can only do 60 at most, so I just put it around 60 and call it a day. So that also makes the game playable in 2019. So yes, you want to increase your FPS. The next thing you want to do is the setting that I like is this HP lower percentage. So I have it set to 49. So there's a pop-up above the character's head when they get below 49 health. And it's just, I like knowing when I'm having someone below half health. You can set this to any number you want. You can have it the timer when they're at 100 or at 10% health. I just have mine like at half health. The next thing you want to turn on is change trees to stumps. This arena is a little different. All these are stumps based on the map, but these trees outside of here are not stumps. And so if I just turn that off, you'll see that all the foliage and trees have been shown. So I always have that off just because it makes it easier to fight people with that off. And then the next thing I want to do is turn off the color, or turn on colorize by state, and that's a little bit lower. So colorize characters by state, it's what this does is it makes people change colors based on what state they're in. So the best example is poison. So when I cast poison on this character, the character turns green. Great visual notification. Let me just cure him. You can see his state changes back to normal. And paralyzed, I believe they turn red. Yeah. So when they're paralyzed, they're red. I also like to have this aura. Let's see here if I can find it. Draw aura under character mode. This, what it does is it puts a little aura underneath characters based on their state. So if you're blue, you'll have a blue aura underneath you. If you're red, you'll have a red aura underneath you. If you're criminal, you'll have gray underneath us because we're both criminal right now. If you're invul, you'll be gold. So you can see the aura underneath here. Keep on going. So I always have no draw roofs on. That removes the roofs of most buildings, not all buildings, but most buildings. So when people run into a building, you can see exactly where they're going Highlight target type by neutral, harmful, and helpful. I have that checked as well. And then I have check ping in-game timer as well. And that's in this upper right-hand corner. You can see your ping. Just always helpful to have this information. That's about it, I would say, for required things. Oh, and also there's some weird settings that sometimes Orion turns on or turns off by default. So go to your, I guess this would be the UO tab on the bottom right, and you want to make sure that show names of approaching players is checked. This, for some reason, this was unchecked when I installed Orion, and I didn't understand why I couldn't see people that were approaching. And then also, if you go to the music tab, for whatever reason, play sounds and background, that was checked. And so what that means is when you minimize the game, you'll hear all the UO sounds. And so you want to uncheck that. So these are just a couple of things that I noticed whenever I first installed Orion. Okay, so the final thing you want to do once you have all your macros set, once you have all your settings set, is you want to save your profile and your in-game options and macros. So one of the best things about Orion is once you do this and once you save your profile and character, you never have to make your macros ever again. I haven't made my macros in a year, so it's awesome. So what you want to do, the first thing you want to do is you want to log out. You want to log out and log in. The reason why is whenever you save your profiles, Orion typically crashes a lot. So I would highly recommend, if you don't log out, it won't save your settings so that you can do, I don't even know the right word for it, but like your final saving of everything. So I know that sounds terrible. I probably didn't explain that well. Just log in and out and you'll be okay. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to options, then you want to click on profiles. And so I already have a profile made, but let's say that I was new to Orion. I would click new profile, and I would type Tito2, and then I would do save current. And you can see down here it says profile saved. I believe that this setting is for your in-game configurations, meaning from all the options that we did, in-game UO options, not the Orion toolbar. I believe this is the first place that you save. So right click to get out of here. And so the next thing we want to do is we want to save our, I guess our profile. And so I have a profile already made, but what you would want to do is click new, and I'll name this Tito2, hit OK. Tito2 loaded, and then I want to click save. Configuration saved. And I believe, if you could see here, once I made a new profile, that none of my settings, so let's swap back. You can see here that under Tito1, I have all of my settings checked right here. When I swap to Tito 2, none of those settings are set. So I'd want to have ignore stamina check on and fast rotation on. Then I'd want to save. Configuration saved. So this is kind of nice if you have different character setups for whatever reason. You can quickly swap between settings. It keeps shooting to my other screen. I'm sorry for it to just disappear like that. So anyways, so this is how you save your toolbar. This is the second way that you're going to save. So remember, the first one is through the options, through profile, and then you want to go and save through your toolbar. The third thing you want to save is your hotkeys. So what you do is go to the hotkeys tab, and then you just click save hotkeys, and it's going to pull up. I believe this is the default, wherever your default Orion folder is, under the OA up. And so as you can see here, this is an example of Orion crashing. Remember how I said that it typically crashes when you do these different types of saves. So this is a great example of why you want to log out and log in before you start doing this process, because you will lose all the work that you've done if you don't log in or out. So let's just log back in. And we'll just go right back to the hotkeys because that's where we left off. And we're just going to click save hotkeys, name it whatever you want. I'm going to just keep this Tito, click save, and it crashed again. So you just keep on doing this as many times as you have to do it, and then eventually it'll work. But in the end, it'll save. So let's just try this one more time. Maybe it'll work this time. There we go. So hotkeys saved. And that's all you have to do. It's just those three types of saves. So let me know if you all have any additional questions. I'm putting our Discord link in the bottom, in the description of this YouTube video. Please join. Feel free to ask us any questions. I would be happy to clarify on anything.